everyone. How is everyone today? I want to welcome you all to Pink Lady Presents. I am overwhelmed with color today. You're going to see such beautiful colors in beads, and our guest, Diane Friedberg, is a multiple award-winning American cinema editor and producer. Welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you.
I'm looking, and our audience is looking at what you're wearing, her earrings and this beautiful necklace. Can you tell us about that? First about the earrings. I love them.
Well, the earrings I just picked up in a market in Morocco. I'm always...
Oh, just like that, you know.
Just like that.
Well, you have to have an eye a little bit, I
Yes,
guess,
you
to
do.
these sort of things. So after years of traveling around the world and finding beads that, catch my attention or have historical importance or some kind of beauty about them, I found these in Morocco. And then I knew I had bought this necklace earlier on the same trip. And this was a finished piece. And I found the earrings. I said, that will match the necklace.
That's right.
And they did. So,
And I
wear
like
it
these,
together.
the big beads. Is that a bead also on the necklace?
Yes, these are beads that are all made in Morocco, and they're Berber styled. And
When you say Berber style.
Berber is a tribal group that live there, and they're all amulets, and they wear them for amuletic purposes, for spiritual and usually for protection.
Well,
in many ways.
now the
Amulets.
word amulet, is that like a medicine type thing to help them?
It
or
could
what?
be. An amulet is anything that will give you protection, bring you good fortune. It could keep away the evil spirits, the evil eye. And so they wear a lot of decorative things that are part of their adornment, but it also has a very deep meaning. And a lot of cultures around the world have the same thing. They wear protective amulets or beads. They come in many forms that protect them and bring them good fortune, good health, good luck, and probably lots of money if they can make it.
Or if they want a baby or something
Exactly.
like that, bring me a baby with a certain bead.
It has to be a boy.
A boy.
Yeah. You're talking Morocco here.
I'm sorry, you're right. Well, Diane, everything has to begin at a certain place.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way the world is. We begin and end certain things. Your beginning is South Africa, am I correct?
Correct.
So tell me something about you and being a native of South Africa. And I know, before we even get to that you were the first woman to direct a film in South Africa, which was really something big. Tell me about your youth in South Africa.
And also where, because people identify Johannesburg and Cape Town.
Right.
And that's
Give
it.
us a little cultural trip here.
Well, my husband always says I don't come from South Africa, I come from Cape Town. So
there
I
you
was
go.
born and
Okay.
grew up in Cape Town, and that was very much a British influence of the British colonies.
Okay.
So we were brought up very much in British traditions. There were not many of the African tribal people around us at all. Firstly, because of the apartheid system, they didn't allow them down into that area. They had to have special permits and passes to come to Cape Town. So
really?
they were not really part of it. We had our own local indigenous colored people who were mulattoes who were intermarried with locals. So they were a group that were around with us. But mostly the African tribal people were not in Cape Town. So that's why my husband always distinguishes and says, well, you come from Cape Town, I come from South Africa and Africa.
Okay.
So I have to live with that all my life. But I say, no, I am ex-South Africa.
And how did you get into the editing and producing and film business?
Well, that's a long story. I was always into drama. Growing up, I was into theater and acting.
Okay.
And I had my teaching diploma at 16 to teach, and I did drama at the university.
Oh, wow.
So this was going to be my career, I thought, until I stepped into the one and only film studio in Cape Town during one of my university vacations and said, give me a job, I'll do anything just for fun. There was not much doing in Cape Town.
Okay.
And
you
so,
had never done this
No,
before?
I never knew anything about films, and I wasn't really a film person. I was really a theater person.
Okay.
And they said, okay, you can answer the telephones. The lady's going off for Christmas for 2 weeks. I said, great.
Good.
And I stayed, and then 2 weeks were up, and the man, Ashley Lazarus, who was a very famous commercial filmmaker of international repute, had this wonderful little studio in Cape Town. And he said, stay, watch us make movies, and you can hang out. I still had 2 months of vacation.
Okay.
So I did, and during that time, I hung out, and I wandered into the editing room. And they had brought an editor out from England, and she was originally Australian. And I started to hang with her every day and started to help her. Hang the trims. In those days, we were working with film.
Okay.
And she
when
said...
you say hang, they
well,
was
we
like,
were stripped. So
like
every
rope.
time you cut a piece of film,
Right,
when you're
right.
editing, you know, you take it up and you hang it on a bin, on a pin, and then you take this piece and you join it to that piece. Those were the days when we actually worked with film.
Right.
Today, of course, it's a whole different ballgame. So she said, well, when you graduate at the end of the year, you want to come back and be my assistant.
Oh.
And I said, that sounds great. I'd love to. Why not? You know, I'm loving this, and it combines everything I was interested, which was graphics and art and movies and acting and performance and.
Well, let me
all of
ask you,
that.
what does it take when you say you loved it and everything, and she was your mentor? What does it take to like something like that? I mean, do you have to be focused? Do you have to be anal when it comes to certain things? I mean, what does
Yes,
it take to be an
It does.
editor?
It takes a lot of, well, this particular job, being a film editor, which I'm still doing at the moment at home. I haven't told you about that project.
Oh, okay.
I'm working 13 hours a day at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Trying to get this film out. It takes a lot of dedication,
Yes,
a lot of
yes.
patience, a lot of focusing, a lot of really what I call zoning in. And then you just close yourself off to the world. I've always said I spent 50 years in a dark room. And then suddenly one day I said, I'm coming out to smell the roses. And that's when I started traveling around the world. Anyway, so to get back to the story, so
Right.
that's what it takes, a lot of dedication. And you have to have a talent, I guess, to be
Yes.
able to do that as well. Not anybody and everybody is cut out to do it.
And then from there, you came to the United States.
No, that's it. I had a long circuitous road to coming here because
Okay.
when I'd been with this company for a year, I said this was great, but they were doing just commercials, and I wanted to do dramatic work, hence my drama background. And I said, well, now I'm in the film business, I really want to know how you make feature films. So they very kindly got me an apprenticeship at Pinewood Studios in England. So I went to London as a supernumerary. They gave me the company apartment, and I went there for a few months, and I used to go to Pinewood every day and sit in the cutting room because it was non-union. Okay. So I did that, got that experience, and then went back to South Africa and entered the feature film industry there. And that's where I worked, and then built myself up to directing a film. And that's where I met my husband on the film that I directed.
That's
I don't know if he
Diane
told you the story.
Friedberg, who everyone has seen. I think it was on a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Charming gentleman.
Yeah. So we met there. So we both have a passion for filmmaking. And then after that, I came here to do a master's at USC in filmmaking. And then went back to South Africa because Lionel, it's a long story, I told you. But
okay.
I
We
wanted
have
to
time.
stay. And he wanted to, we both had dreams to come and work and live in
Right.
America because we both were passionate film people at this point. I was. He'd been all his life. And so eventually we got married and had our kids and all the time planning to come back and work here.
And
so we
you did.
finally made it happen. So always said, if you have a dream, you can make your dreams come
That's
true.
right.
Well,
Well,
so I believed in that.
when did you see that you wanted to do something else? I mean, because I want to get into, like your book, World on a String, it just didn't happen. You had to have that passion for beads, and it's a long journey that you just did with that.
Yes, that was after I kind of got into the world of beads by accident, and then
that
I suddenly, it's also a funny story, but I had a strand of amber beads that my grandmother's brother brought me from Moscow in the 60s.
Oh,
and I always had this wonderful strand of amber that I loved. And in South Africa, we didn't wear a lot of jewelry. It was gold or silver, mostly gold and pearls.
Oh.
That's all the ladies wore in South Africa.
Now,
It
why was that?
Because it was elegant, and it was English, and it was plain, and it was tasteful.
And it was English.
And it was English, and
Right.
it was respectful, and, that's just what the ladies did.
Okay.
Right.
You had lots of gold, and you had lots of diamonds, and you had lots of, pearls. And that's what you wore. That's what I grew up with. It was the English tradition. Being refined and quiet,
Right.
and, that kind of thing. So
And humble and shy.
then something happened in my life. I'm not sure what, but I changed. Anyway, and then when I came here, I went to the local mall and saw somebody was making necklaces and earrings out of amber and other materials. And I said, oh, this is amazing. How do you make all of this? Where do I buy amber? And they said, we have a shop. So I went to the store. And I was working in Burbank at the time, and they were there. And I went, and there was like a kid in a candy store.
Oh, my.
And I started buying all these beads and sat on the bed making necklaces every
Really?
night. Yeah. And that's how it grew. And then I started going to the Bead Society and learning that there was a whole history behind beads, and that was the story of mankind was the story of beads. And it became a passion that I started. The more I investigated, the more I learned, the
We
more I
have
knew.
to back up just 1 second.
Yes.
You went by the Bead Society. I didn't realize there was a society.
Yeah, there was.
Tell us about that.
Well, the LA Bead Society was the first bead society that started, I think, in the 70s, and with a group of people who loved beads, and it was the revival of the hippie era, when suddenly all the African trade beads were coming back on the market.
Right.
And everybody started looking at all these beads which hippies were wearing and saying, well, what are these beads? Where were they made? And, you know, they were like trade beads in Africa and everywhere else in the world. They traded the world. And then you started learning that these beads that were made in Europe at that time, hundreds of years ago, from the 13th, 14th century, were traded and put on ballasted ships around the world. So wherever the explorers went, they would take beads, and instead of money, it became a form of currency.
A barter,
and they would barter with everybody in all the tribal areas all over the world. So anyway, it went on, and I started learning all this stuff, and I'd been doing a lot of film editing on the History Channel stuff, and I started learning how to, you know, put together historical films and make them interesting. And I said, I have this idea, I want to do a film about beads. Nobody's ever done it. And the guys that I was working with said, well, we'll take it to A&E, but they're not going to buy it. But anyway, I wrote a thing and they put it out, and of course they weren't interested.
Right.
So one day I woke up and I said to my husband, you know what, I'm going to make the film. He said, well, what's it going to be about? I said, well, I know, it's all in my head. I'm going to, and I went out and bought a camera.
For beads.
For beads to shoot, a video camera.
While you're talking now, during this whole program, what we're doing is showing some of the things from World on a String.
Okay, good.
And it's on there, and I just want to take this up over here, because one of the pictures is a chair with this beautiful young lady on it, loaded with beads, and these are huge, and I know we're taking a close-up of it, and there's one, what's a sed bead? Because one of the pictures is S-E-D, a sed bead.
D-Z-I.
Yes.
A Z bead.
Oh, Z bead. What is that?
A Z bead is one of the most valuable beads on the planet.
See, I knew I'm
You
good.
picked it up. Yeah. And it is treasured by the Tibetan people.
Oh.
And they believe that it was planted in the ground by some gods. And if you find one, it's worth a fortune. So if you get an original one, it's worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Really?
But today, they've discovered they really are just agate beads that have been etched in. And so there are lots and lots of fake beads out there today. So everybody around the world is going around making fake beads that look like the original Z beads. So it's very hard now to even distinguish which is a real one and which is a fake one. But they are very treasured by Tibetans and a lot of the Buddhist people.
But if we offer
in the Himalayas.
them to the audience as faux beads, then that's worth 20% more than a fake bead. We could make that work. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I would like to ask you the other question. You said that it transforms human thinking and it influences social behavior. I'm not quite sure I understand that.
Well, I think it was the first time it was a little object, and that people took this little object and they put it on them in the very primitive times, and they believed that it embodied, if they took a bone from an animal, they believed that that animal's spirit would be transformed into their spirit, and they would be empowered by the spirit of this animal if they wore it. So it made them more powerful and gave them more energy and more ability to go out and hunt animals and do things. That they would have the spirit of whatever animal, if it was a lion or whatever it was, and they would wear it. And tribal chiefs all around the world today, especially in Africa, still wear them, I mean, it's going out of fashion because obviously there are no animals anymore, and the whole protective thing it's a different story.
Correct.
But basically, that's what it was all about. And it was abstract thinking, and people for the first time would take something, put a piece of string and put it around their necks, and say, okay, now I'm empowered, or it's doing something for me, or it's decorative as well. It's part of their adornment, but it all had meaning.
You met in your travels, you went to over 40 countries.
Yes, well, now I've been to over 100. But
literally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yes.
And you met, I don't know whether our audience knows what the word means, but naturally they know priests. You met creative people, but you met shamans. And that word to me always was very exotic and very fascinating. What is a shaman? And you had to go to tribes, so that was a little dangerous at times. I mean, I would imagine. Tell us about those experiences.
Well, there are several. There was one particular shaman. I went all the way down to Mexico, who belonged to a tribe called the Huichol tribe.
The Huichol?
Huichol, Huichol. And they are based outside Acapulco in the mountains.
Oh.
And so I went down specially to meet him, and they do this wonderful bead art where they've taken all the glass beads. The glass beads, all the tiny little seed beads, were brought into all these countries by the traders. Oh. And people used to use stones and beads and seeds and things and make their jewelry and their amulets and their decorative adornment out of all the natural organic materials. Okay. And when they brought in these tiny little glass beads, they were fascinated by the colors and the vibrancy, and it was a material they couldn't make. Right. Because, it takes a lot of technology to be able to create a tiny little glass bead like that. And they were fascinated because it was something beyond anything they'd experienced in their environment anywhere. It was not a natural element. So this started slowly supplanting all the natural elements, and that's why the Native Americans and Indians and everybody started using all these very colorful, beautiful little elements and making this amazing beadwork.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
We're going to watch right now, and I think, when I saw it, first of all, it was an hour and something long, so we're going to take a few moments of it, but about the bead history, the way you did it. And I'd like to go to it right now. So we're ready to watch what a bead begins. And it's right up there.
It is a tiny object that has an impact on human history out of all proportion to its size. It is an epic saga filled with mystery and surprise. This is the story of the bead, a masterpiece of creation that unites the entire world on a string. What is it about these tiny objects that fascinate people from every walk of life? What is their lure, their magnetic hold on us? Why do they drive us to collect, trade, and treasure them with a fervor and a dedication seldom devoted to other things? What lies behind the international renaissance in our devotion to the bead? Why do people all over the world jealously prize these tiny items? Fashioned from nature's bountiful harvest, beads captivate and enthrall us. Yet their origins lie in simple organic materials like shell, bone, bark, and berry. Some have an understandable allure, emanating from the riches of the earth's treasure trove, including stone, silver, and gold. But why are they valued so highly? The smallest and roundest beads, the so-called seed bead, dazzles the eye in a myriad colors. But why are they so prized by artists and woven into the fabric of society from jungle to city, enriching human culture in unimaginable ways? What is it that has allowed beads to leave a mark that has transcended the centuries? Why, even now, do they still feature prominently in ceremonies and rituals throughout the farthest corners of the planet? Why are so many beads perceived to have magical powers and worn as amulets for protection? What has driven the creative mind to lend such an inventive touch to the legacy of the bead, in which people fashion superb works of art from them, expressed in fields as diverse as fashion, jewelry, weaving, and a host of decorative crafts? Why are beads the perfect complement to human beauty? often proclaiming the owner's wealth and even announcing the wearer's place in society. Why are beads frequently imbued with a mystical role, one in which shamans believe them to have supernatural powers? Why do so many regard them as a potent shield against evil, misfortune, and harm? Why do so many cultures perceive beads to be a direct bond with the divine? Why do people use them to identify the deity they worship, even pressing them into service as a talisman of protection and a link to the afterlife? Beads were the catalyst behind some of our most enterprising and enduring technologies. Beads, not steam, lay behind our earliest industrial revolution. Beads, not coins, were responsible for the birth of international trade and commerce. Beads, not swords, conquered new territories. It is the bead that unites us in our differences and celebrates us in our diversity. It's a fabulous story, and it began a long, long time ago.
Oh, I could go on, and I want to tell everybody.
Okay.
I saw the whole thing, and it is fabulous. I was like, literally, I couldn't leave. I put on, my computer there, and I couldn't leave.
You were mesmerized.
Mesmerized, that's
yes,
the
you
word.
were.
Could you tell us, first of all, where we can buy the book, World on a String, and then where one can get the video? Because when I tell you, we just had the icing. You don't even know what's inside the documentary. It is really, really great. Where can we get that, Diana?
Well, the documentary is actually a 5-part series, and each one is 90 minutes long.
Good.
And one of them is 2 hours long because they had so much material. So there's a series of 5 documentaries, DVDs, and I sell them all like for $50 for the whole set.
And how can they get
And they
it?
can get that on my website, which is www.worldonastringproject.com.
Can you repeat that again?
It's worldonastringproject.com. And there's also, the book is available on Amazon.
And we're going to put this on the website, so
Great.
anyone who didn't write it down will be
have
able
time.
to
Will be
find
able to
it.
do
Yes.
it. Now
Wonderful.
you've done, I cannot tell you, everyone, how many projects this darling, adorable lady has done. You've done Disney educational. You've done Junkyard Wars. What is that?
That was one of the early reality shows that was created in England, actually. And they brought it to Hollywood in the 90s. And I worked on that show where they actually went to a junkyard and had all these guys take a lot of junk. And there was a competition who could build the car that would go fastest. So they had a half an hour or an hour program with all these different teams building junk things that would move.
I love it.
And they would have a race. It was a lot of fun. It was a very popular show.
But some of the names here,
I
you
know.
did Man Broke 1,000 Chains.
Oh, that was a
that?
wonderful film. That was a remake of the Paul Mooney 1933 classic, I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang.
Oh, yeah.
So this was a remake done by Danny Mann, who was a very famous director in Hollywood. And this was a wonderful film. It did great. It won awards and was a very good film made for HBO.
Oh, my God. And then, wait a minute, a cute name that just got me. Mrs. Dumblebee, serious. It sounds like, it sounds like a little old lady, a detective or something. What was
That
it?
was an old, that was an animation series made by us in
Oh.
Cape Town. There were 2 ladies that I still Facebook with them, and they created this little character, Mrs. Dumblebee, and they
Sounds
animated it for South African television. It was a children's series. It was delightful.
Oh, and what was she, like a teacher?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Oh, my goodness. Now, Make the Cut and then Jump Cut. What was that?
Those were 2 books that I co-authored with Laurie Jane Coleman, and she and I had run the American Cinema Editors intern program for like 18 years, where we took 2 interns We selected them from students from around the country.
Oh, wow.
And we picked the 2 best that we thought would, who really were dedicated and passionate about making a future career in film editing. And through the American Cinema Editors, we obviously had access to all the top editing rooms in the city. And then we would put them in this program for 4 weeks. And then they're all working, and today they're all winning awards. They're like our children. We
Isn't
have
that
60,
fabulous?
70 of them, and they're all like our big family. And we started this whole brotherhood of the young new generation working together instead of always competing with each other. And they're all great friends, and we Facebook. And it's actually been a very rewarding program. Then the 2 books, sorry, I'll just finish that quickly because you asked about the books. And the 2 books evolved out of that program because we do also lecture series for those who didn't make the program and were finalists, and anybody else who wanted to come, we'd give them a weekend of lecturing about how to get into the industry and how to behave and the ethics and what it all entails. And then we wrote 2 books out of that.
You won the America Cinema Editing Award 2017.
Right.
Now that was for
all our contribution to helping promote the art and craft of film editing in Hollywood, which was amazing. So, as I said, you can make dreams come true.
I have to ask the question. So what do you do in your spare time?
I don't have any. I do books. I do travel a lot. I do 3 or 4 major trips a year, and I do photography books when I come back on each trip.
Well, now let me
And now
ask
I'm
you:
doing
is
big film.
Reflections?
Yes.
Where did this come in?
Well,
Because this is fascinating, also.
That's available on Amazon as well. So that's a beautiful book. It's an spiritual inspirational book for people if you want to give a little gift to somebody who might be feeling a little down in the dumps. And it's got wonderful sayings and beautiful photographs.
I saw
Did you like it?
Oh, I love the Alaskan. Is it the Alaskan Bears?
Yes.
Oh,
I went up to Churchill in Canada to film those. Shot them.
so
That
how do
photographs.
you choose where you're going? I mean, really. I mean, you've been to so many places that are exotic
She
places.
probably says to herself, where haven't
I
I
been?
been?
Oh, that's
And go there.
I've just come back from the Antarctica.
There.
So I just
Really?
made the 7th continent, yes.
We had a lovely lady, Dr. Erica Miller, who had
yes.
just come back from climbing Mount Everest.
At 86.
Amazing.
Yes.
Young.
And she sat in that chair
And she
and
told
she
you-
said, don't tell me I can't do it. Of course I can
Yeah,
do it.
right. You could do anything, I
And
say, once you
anything.
do it.
And what is your, well, first of all, what project did you do with Lionel, your husband?
Well, we have a company together, so over the years,
You work with Leonard Nimoy,
I
right?
did a movie
Yes.
for him. He wanted one on the artist Liza Liu, so I put that together for him, and that won her the MacArthur Foundation Award, $250,000 for her work.
Wow.
And I think the film helped when they put that in. But anyway, that's another story. But my husband and I, we work a lot together, and in fact, he's helping me a little bit on my current project, which is a huge documentary that I've nurtured for 43 years.
Oh, that's
And
all.
I'm finally making this dream a
Okay.
reality.
And what is this?
And that's a story about the history of film music in Hollywood. And a composer called Max Steiner.
Yes.
You know his work,
Yes.
Gone with the Wind, Casablanca.
yes.
So I'm telling his life story.
Wow.
He was born in Vienna and comes from a very distinguished family there who were entrepreneurs in the entertainment world. And he started basically film scoring when talkies started in Hollywood.
How do you begin a project like that? I mean, really, you go to the family. You start with the archives.
Well, it started back in 1975 when I was at USC doing my master's.
Oh.
I had met his wife. Max had passed on, and I'd met his wife, and we became very friendly. And she was the sweetest, wonderful, most lovely lady. And she just sort of took to me, and I took to her, and we became friends. And then during one of my school projects, I said, well, let's make a film about Max. She said, sure. So she had given me access to all the material that was in the house to him at that time. And I started doing the whole project, and the last moment USC turned me down. And they said, we don't do documentaries, we only do dramatic films.
Really?
Yeah. So that was the end of that. I put it on the shelf, very disappointed. And it's been sitting on the shelf. I still have all the papers. I have her signed everything. And 2 years ago, I met somebody at a concert, and he happened to be a musicologist, and we started chatting, and I said, oh, I was going to do this film about Max Steiner so many years ago. He said, well, why didn't you do it? I said, everybody who was going to be in it is dead. Elmer
Right.
Bernstein, David Raxon,
Right.
Johnny Green, all these great famous people, Eleanor Slatkin, everyone I'd interviewed at that
Yeah,
time.
but now we want to see them. That would be.
But I had audio, and then we couldn't find the audios in the house.
Oh,
Anyway,
no.
so I said, well, really? He said, yes. So they organized a convention a year ago, at the university down in Long Beach.
Right.
And everybody who met who was interested in Max Steiner came to the convention. It was small. And I met everybody and I said, okay, let's do it. So,
Wow.
and I raised some money, and it's all being done as a labor of love, not being paid. But at this stage, I'm just doing it because I'm passionate about it and love to do it. So I'm just finishing the editing. I've done a 2-hour show.
Oh my goodness.
I know, and it's amazing. I just hope it.
Now, are any
yeah.
relatives alive? I mean,
No.
No.
No. The only one who was alive who's in the movie is Danny Selznick, who's the son of David O. Selznick.
Oh, yeah.
He's on in years, but he was wonderful. So he talks about his father and Gone with the Wind, and he knew Max. He lived next door to Max, and as a child he'd go and sit in the room and listen to him. He'd play the piano for him. So he talks about all of that, which was very moving and very touching.
Sure. One of the things
Yeah.
that we love doing,
Yes.
and I hope you will share with us when you're ready to release this, we can let the audience
Right.
know, because
Fantastic. I'd be
there are
delighted.
people who would love to have it and would never hear of it
Right.
if we didn't tell
Right.
them.
So
And you also some of the subjects that you edited and all that, like global warming.
Yes.
I mean, come on. I mean,
Yeah.
from global warming to a Disney to
Yeah.
you're all over. I
know,
mean, which I think is phenomenal.
Well, that's what makes life interesting, is that, and I've been very privileged. I think my life has been very privileged, that I've been able to touch the world in so many ways and so many aspects. And working with Lionel has also been amazing, because we have our own company. And in South Africa, we made, I think, over 100 films together there
Oh, wow.
for the television and the station. He'd write and produce and shoot, and I'd bring it all home and I'd cut it. So we had our own little thing going, and we did a lot of things for television when that was first introduced into South Africa in 1976. And then afterwards, when we came here, we were both guns for hire, because it wasn't so easy to
Okay.
produce your own material.
Right.
We had 2 young kids. We had to educate them, and bring them up and work and do all of that. So we each kind of went our own way, doing whatever we could just to do, to do jobs.
Right.
And documentaries started in a big way here in the 90s when cable opened up.
Right.
So suddenly the History Channel and A&E and all these people were making endless documentaries, out of which reality started. So that was a great opportunity. And some studios I worked with were just churning out. I'd cut a film a week. Every 2 weeks
Oh, my
we'd cut
goodness.
a film, an hour show. And it was like, whoa. It was like turnover. But they were filling the
Right.
networks and the airwaves, and that's what happened. So we were lucky we were right in on that bandstand.
In all your travels, we're talking now, and everything seems beautiful and no problem. You must have encountered a problem here or there. I mean, going into a country, or seeing a tribe. I mean, did they all welcome you with open arms, or did you have any problems at all?
Well, I've been very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, really.
I go in, I think one of the exciting stories I tell that I like is, I think in that piece, extract that you showed, there was a tribe in Ghana, and a woman that I'd been introduced to took me up there because I said I needed to shoot the gold of this tribe, and we sort
How
of...
many people went up with you?
Just me alone. I'd shoot everything. I went around the world on my own most of the time.
Good for you.
With a camera.
Hear that, ladies? We can do it.
We can do it, I'm telling you. You just have to keep your wits about you, and I think...
So you
have
went up
have
to
eyes.
this.
So we went up to this
Yeah.
group, and I'd said, all right, I've just got very little money for them, and she organized with the chieftain of that little area up there, that tribal area, that I would come and do some filming. We got there, so, well, we've only got an hour, and I said, fine, and the whole village came. There must have been 250 people, and they all came dressed up in their best clothing.
Oh, with beads.
With
on.
beads and
Oh,
their traditional
love it.
clothes and the Ghana fabrics and textiles.
Right.
And they brought out all these brass beads, gold beads, and they dressed themselves. And then when I came out, I was filming that. It's me with this tiny little rinky-dink camera. And then they came out, and they're all standing there, and they reenacted the whole ceremony for me. And I'm standing there with this little camera, no sound, no person, no assistant, no
no.
nothing.
Oh,
and I'm
my-
standing there going, how am I going to cover this? How am I going to film all of this with all these people and the girls and the children dancing
my God.
with the beads strung around and doing their...
But you
their
did
thing?
it.
I did it. And it was like, and they wouldn't stop. After an hour, more people came, and they went down the streets of the village, and there was a whole parade. They were having the best time ever. And I went, okay, there's me with my little rinky-dink baby. And, we were just I was following them around. Got a wonderful sequence out of it, which is in the movie.
You know
Yeah.
what? I honestly think that
Yeah.
3/4 of your expertise and your success is you. Is really you.
Yeah,
I mean, I think your attitude, like in other words, whatever. I'm just going in there and whatever.
Yeah, you have to, and you have to have a good attitude to people as well.
Sure.
You know, sometimes I go on these group tours, which are organized tours, and I run up to people with photographs with my camera because I still do a lot of photography.
Okay.
And then the people in the groups, don't do that. You can't go photograph those people. You haven't got permission. I said, don't interfere. I know how to handle them. You know, and then I give a smile to people.
Right.
And I said, can I take your photo? And then they smile. They're happy. People are happy
yes.
to be photographed. People in the far out places, who comes to them and says, I want your picture? You know, for them, it's a big treat.
So, besides the one that you're doing now, your project,
Yes.
what's in the future for you? I mean, you're a young woman.
You're right.
Well, yeah.
You know how old I am.
Everything
I've
is
been working for over
relative.
50 years.
I mean, when I'm looking at you, you have a joie de vivre, a joy of life. I know you're not going to stop. I mean, what do you want to do?
Well, this film will take me probably till the end of the year by the time I've wrapped it and got it distributed and
Okay.
finalized all that. I've still got another bead book. I've been collecting photographs for another book. I'm not sure it's going to be like that, but it's on amulets.
No,
I've been-
amulets again.
Amulets are these things that we wear that are protective.
Right,
So when
okay,
on all my travels I've been using, I don't film anymore, I use photographs. So I've now been doing a lot of photography.
Okay.
So I've got some wonderful shots of people around the world wearing all kinds of different things for protection. So I'm going to put another book together. It's all in the computer
In
already.
Asia, is the use of jade very similar to
Yes.
the beading that you're...
Yes, jade is a very important element, especially for the Chinese. And that the best jades come from Myanmar, Burma. So I've been down. I haven't been up to the mountains.
We
where they're from.
actually had the Consul General of Myanmar.
Yes.
We work with a lot of Consul Generals.
Oh, great.
And we just did a show in October with the Consul General of Senegal.
Oh,
And
And they have a pink
lake
lake.
that has pink salt.
oh, they must have
Yes.
loved it.
Oh,
I
my
have to
God.
take a picture of you at
Yeah,
the pink
you
Yeah,
know
well,
what? That's exactly what we
She
want
wants
to
her
do.
to come
Come
and
on,
be
there
the
be a
and
pink
promote
Yeah,
the pink
I
think
lake.
you
promote the
better.
pink lake.
I
so-
think that's wonderful.
But I do want to just add one more thing. One of the questions that Pink Lady gets all the time,
Is why
I
do
don't
we
care
keep-
where we go,
Yes.
is number one, are you ever going to retire? And she says, no. Simple. But the other thing is, how do you keep doing this? And one of the answers is the people who sit in that chair are among the most successful, highest self-esteem, have the can-do attitude.
Right.
And if you surround yourself with those people,
right.
there's nothing worse than the person who said, you can't take their picture.
Totally,
Don't.
exactly.
Instead of having
Right.
20 people saying, go get them, go
Exactly.
get that picture.
Exactly. So
someone-
that's why I actually put a lot of negative energy out of my life. If people
You have to.
You
if
have to.
people put negative energy anywhere near me, it's like, oh, goodbye.
You don't
I won't
have
see
time
you again.
for
I
it.
don't
You
have
don't.
time for
You
that.
don't
No,
have-
and I
don't.
decided-
That's about it.
I decided, Diane,
Yeah.
a long time ago, I think when I first got into my 80s, and someone would look at me and they'd say, well, you know, isn't it time that you like stopped? Or I said, for what?
Yeah.
I said, I'm only in my 80s.
Exactly.
Wait a
Now-
minute,
and
wait a
now-
minute, not just in your 80s.
I'm in my 87th
seventh
running.
year.
Running. I call it running.
It's amazing. I admire you. I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
So
And
it's
I
a
have
pleasure
to-
to be with you and get your energy. And I love it. Anybody who's full of energy,
Well,
I'll just
actually-
absorb it all.
Actually,
I love
if
it.
you can in your
Yeah.
travels, because that's what everybody would like. Something they always meet and they'll say to me, if you could just take that energy and put it in an amulet, that we would be energized and have a great time because we want to be like you. I want to be like you, Diana Friedberg. Audience, you must. I really mean that. I don't usually say that. But her book, World on a String, when I tell you, is absolutely fabulous. And the documentaries, you don't want to get 5 at a time, get 1 at a time, get 2 at a time. But please do that because you will gain such knowledge and you'll have a great time. Chaplain Dove and I.
And
yes,
I know also that we have a lot of people who deal with retirement centers and schools, middle
Yes,
schools,
right.
and elementary schools.
and I think the kids would
To
love
get
to
this
see it.
series
Yes.
and to
I'd be
show
happy
it
to
and
donate
share
it to
it.
them. So
Great.
That
let me
would be
know if you have
phenomenal.
any schools who would like it. I'm quite happy to donate. I've
The
got
other night we were at the
lots of
Grand
things.
Arts to see Hairspray.
Oh.
900 people packed the place.
And these are
Wow.
1,200 students
and I would
who are all
guarantee you
phenomenal.
Yeah.
that every one of those 1,200 children love this.
Type
They
of
would
thing.
they
Well,
would
yeah.
go crazy
Yeah,
to
no,
watch
I
World
made
on a
it for
String.
educational purposes. They're
Yeah.
also non-profit, all donated money.
Well,
My
especially they're into
projects are,
costume.
yeah.
And costumes with beads
Oh,
and things
it's
like that would
amazing.
be a natural. We will
Yeah.
talk. We
That
will
would be
talk.
great. I'd
We
love
will.
to.
I don't want to leave.
No, I'm having a wonderful
I
time.
really, like little Lionel, her husband said the same thing. He said, I'm really having a good
I'm
time
having
here.
a great time talking. It's
I
great.
want to tell everyone that this is what Pink Lady Presents is all about. Is a life well lived.
Yeah.
No matter the age, Diana.
No,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't
I mean,
matter.
can I disclose how
No.
old I am?
You know what? It
Don't-
doesn't,
it doesn't even
doesn't
matter. I
matter.
don't even count anymore.
You know what?
I've been working for over 50 years,
There
so
you,
there you go.
there you go.
We had a
Yeah.
young lady on recently who was 11, but they were 11 fabulous
Fabulous,
years,
yeah.
Yeah.
and she's got a lifetime ahead of her to share
yeah.
with our audience.
Yeah.
I thank everyone. We will be right back. Thank you.
I'm gonna live until I die. The blues I lay low, I'll make 'em stay low. They'll never trail over my head.